This year, the United States celebrates 250 years, 2.5 centuries of history, resilience, and hope. It all began with an extraordinary idea, that people could build a nation founded on liberty and the pursuit of a brighter future. Through courage, through perseverance, America has continued to grow with each passing generation. From bustling city lights to symbols that have welcomed millions with the promise of new beginnings. From sunny coastlines to breathtaking natural wonders. From places filled with bright lights and big dreams to landscapes preserved for generations to enjoy. Where wildlife still roams free, and where nature reminds us just how enduring time can be. For 250 years, America's story has continued to unfold, and one of the most meaningful ways we celebrate that story is by gathering around the table.
Hello everyone, welcome to Miami Cooking. I'm Azita, and today we're going to be cooking real American food. And we know we're a lot more than just hot dogs or cheeseburgers and fries. So let's get started with those classic American recipes.
Since the FIFA World Cup, everyone keeps talking about ranch. For this recipe, you'll need the following ingredients. Don't forget to get a screenshot. Alright, we're going to begin with 1 tablespoon plus 2 teaspoons of buttermilk, 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise, 1 tablespoon of sour cream, 1/4 of a teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/4 of a teaspoon of onion powder, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, 1/8 of a teaspoon of pepper, 1/2 a teaspoon of paprika, 1/8 of a teaspoon of dried parsley, another 1/8 of a teaspoon of dried chives, and then we're going to add 3/4 of a teaspoon of lemon juice. 1/2 a minced garlic clove, and now this part is optional. You can add a pinch of cayenne and a pinch of sugar. If you were to taste this right now, it's not going to taste the way you want it to. The secret here is to leave this sitting in the fridge. I left mine overnight. This allows all the ingredients to infuse for that rich restaurant-style buttermilk ranch. Fried chicken has been popular for a couple of centuries now. For this southern fried chicken recipe, you'll need the following ingredients. Don't forget to get a screenshot. Let's begin with our marinade. First, we're going to add 2 cups of buttermilk, 1/2 a teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 tablespoon of hot sauce, 1/2 a teaspoon of black pepper, 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder, 1.5 teaspoons of onion powder, and 1 teaspoon of dill. Now we're going to mix all these ingredients until they've blended evenly. And it's time to add our raw chicken into this. I recommend you swoosh this around a couple times so that they're fully drenched. And it's time to add our raw chicken into the marinade, making sure it's all covered. I make sure to get cuts of chicken with the skin on for a juicier inside and for that extra crunch to our fried chicken. So here's a secret tip. We want to let this marinate for 24 to 48 hours for an extra juicy and flavor-packed chicken within the skin. I like to cover this with some saran wrap before placing it in the fridge. After 24 to 48 hours in the refrigerator, we want to let these drain for about 30 minutes at room temperature. This will allow these to fry beautifully and cook evenly. During this half hour of rest, we will be working on our breading flour. Now it's time to season our flour mixture. We'll be using quite a few spices, but first let's start with 2 cups of all-purpose flour and 3/4 of a cup of cornstarch. The cornstarch is the secret to an extra crispy, crunchy coating once that chicken is fried. Up next, we'll be using 1 tablespoon of turmeric, 1 tablespoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground or crushed celery seed, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper, 1/4 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of thyme. Now we're going to go ahead and mix this until all the spices have spread evenly. Now, if you look closely, Once we smooth this out, you should be able to see so many specks in your flour. That, my friends, is a well-seasoned flour. Here's one of my favorite old-school tricks for a perfectly coated fried chicken. Instead of using a bowl, I like to use a large brown paper bag. We're going to add our seasoned flour, then we'll add the chicken inside. I like doing only 1 or 2 at a time. Then we're going to seal this shut, and we're going to shake this to ensure a nice even coat. Once they're fully coated, we're going to place these back on the rack. Now to the oil. Your oil should remain right in between medium and high. You can test if the oil is ready by dropping in a small pinch of the flour mixture. If it sizzles right away, you're good to go. Or you can use a wooden spoon or chopstick on the bottom of the pot, and if you see bubbling, then it's good to go as well. Now it's time to start frying our chicken. Every piece of chicken cooks a little differently. Bone-in chicken takes longer than boneless, and larger pieces need more time than the smaller ones. That's why a thermometer would be the best in this case, making sure that the inside of your meat has a temperature of 165 degrees. But if you don't have a thermometer, don't worry. You can always remove it from the heat and check the inside to make sure it's cooked. And there you have it, some delicious spiced fried chicken. You can serve this with ranch, ketchup, or even honey, my favorite. This mac and cheese has some French little touches. For this extra cheesy mac and cheese, you'll need the following ingredients. Don't forget to get your screenshot. To begin this mac and cheese recipe, we're going to make a cheesy bechamel sauce. We'll begin this by making an onion piqué, or an onion pique. We're going to slice a white onion in half, and we're going to use the pointy side of a clove to puncture the bay leaf into the half onion, like a tack. Now we'll place one of those in a pot, and we're going to add 1.5 cups of milk. We're going to allow this to simmer on medium heat for 15 to 20 minutes, allowing the flavors to infuse. Now in a separate pot, we're going to add 1.5 tablespoons of salted butter, and we're going to allow this to melt slightly. And then we'll add 1.5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. As soon as these 2 ingredients meet, you'll want to start whisking this until you get a nice, smooth, but thicker consistency. And we're going to add our milk that had been simmering without the onion. Now to this, I've only added a little bit of pepper here for some flavor. From now on, this sauce should remain warm, not hot, so you'll want to remove it from the stovetop. And we're going to add a pinch of nutmeg, 2 tablespoons of hot sauce, half a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, and as we're adding our ingredients, we want to make sure to mix in order to blend the flavors. It is very important to shred your own cheese for this, because pre-shredded cheese contains anti-caking agents, which can make it grainier and less creamy. We're going to add half a cup of sharp cheddar cheese to this, and we're going to whisk until it melts completely. Then we're going to add half a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. This will give the flavor a nice kick. Now we're going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of garlic powder and 1/8 of a teaspoon of onion powder for a little extra flavor. Next, we're going to shred 4 ounces or half a cup of sharp cheddar cheese again, and this time we're also going to shred 1 ounce of Gouda. Now to make sure that our shredded cheese has a good kick of flavor, we're going to add a pinch of garlic powder, a pinch of onion powder, 1/8 of a teaspoon of paprika, a pinch of cayenne pepper, and a little pinch of black pepper. Next, we're going to boil our cavatappi pasta until it's al dente. Once the pasta is cooked, go ahead and drain it. Then transfer it to your main baking dish, or in this case, the Ninja Crispy dish, making sure it's greased with 1 tablespoon of butter. We recently got a Ninja Crispy air fryer. You'll be seeing a video on that pretty soon. Now, for preparing this in your oven dish, I recommend you add the cheese sauce and some cheese. Then mix it in and do another layer of pasta, and once again the cheese sauce and the shredded cheese. We really want to make sure this mac and cheese is extra cheesy. Lastly, we're going to add that last layer of shredded cheese on top. This will be nice, brown, and slightly crisp. For this part, it is okay to use pre-shredded cheese. We're also going to add 1 teaspoon of dried parsley on top for a pop of color. This looks absolutely delicious. It's nice and toasty on the top, but creamy on the inside. Look at all that cheese. There's nothing like filling your house with the smell of apple pie. For this Liberty apple pie, you'll need the following ingredients. Don't forget to take a screenshot. First, we're going to begin by sifting 3 cups of flour. Now, for this pie recipe, I like to make my pie crust spiced and flavored already. This will allow for more aromatics in our apple pie. We're going to be adding 2 teaspoons of cinnamon and a pinch of cardamom, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of sugar, and we're going to allow these to mix for a bit. That way all the ingredients get incorporated. Now it's time to add our cubes of butter. Cutting the butter into these cubes helps trap pockets of steam as it melts in the oven. That steam pushes layers of dough apart, creating a beautifully light and flaky crust. This next step is very important. We're adding 6 tablespoons of ice water to our dough. This very cold water helps prevent cracking in our dough. Next, we're going to grab this mixture and roll it into our hands until we can make 2 balls. One will be for our pie crust and the other will be for the lattice design on top. We're going to place these in a container with a wrap on top and place it in the refrigerator for at least 30 minutes. Once you take out your dough, I recommend letting it sit at room temperature for anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes so that it's a bit softer and easier to roll. I recommend working on a workspace with flour on the bottom, and you can place some flour on your rolling pin so that it doesn't stick to the surface. Here I used 1 tablespoon of butter to grease my pie dish. Now it's time to crimp the edges. But I'm not just going to do the edges, I'm actually going to do the entire inner wall of the pie. And don't forget to make some holes in the bottom to allow some air to escape. You can leave that pie dough in the fridge for at least 30 minutes, but you can also leave it overnight for best results. In the meantime, we can work on the inside of our apple filling. We're going to be peeling 2 Honeycrisp apples and 3 Granny Smith apples. I like to use a mandolin to get thinner cuts of the apples. This will create a beautiful layer as you cut your pie. Please make sure you core your apple as you do this. You don't want any seeds in this. Now we're going to add 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of granulated white sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla bean paste, or you can do extract, 1 teaspoon of apple pie spice, 1/4 of a teaspoon of pumpkin spice, 1/8 of a teaspoon of almond extract, and we're going to go ahead and toss this around a couple of times so that all the flavors can infuse. I do recommend you mix this very, very well because sometimes the spices will stick to a few pieces but not others. Now we're going to add 1 teaspoon of freshly squeezed orange juice. And we're going to mix this around a little bit more. I recommend letting your apples sit in the fridge for about 30 to 40 minutes. This gives them enough time to release their natural juices to form a light syrup. We'll save that syrupy liquid and drizzle it over our pie for that extra boost of flavor. Now we're going to start stacking our apples for this delicious apple pie. And we're going to add 2 tablespoons of salted butter cubes. This will help enhance the flavor with a richness and tenderness. Now we're going to work on our crumble top. Using 1/4 of a cup of flour, 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 1/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/2 a cup of oats, and 4 tablespoons of cubed unsalted butter. I went ahead and took out the rest of my pie dough and rolled it out. I'm creating the pie lattice. You could do this with a knife, but it's a lot easier if you do it with a pizza cutter. I recommend leaving these at a width of about 1/2 inch. As you see here, I already put my crumble top on top, and I'm going to use those little strips to interweave them. Because this is a very special pie and a very special year for our country, I've gone ahead and used a paring knife to cut out the year 1776, representing the beginning of our nation. I dipped these numbers in an egg wash and covered with cinnamon for an aged look. This part is crucial. We need to cover our pie with aluminum foil because we don't want the top getting damaged. I recommend leaving it a little bit hooded in the center for air to flow through. This will stay in the oven at 375 for 45 minutes. Once this comes back out and we remove the aluminum, we're going to use some more of the crumbled top to cover the empty squares in the pie. Then we're going to brush the lattice with egg wash and place uncovered in the oven for 20 more minutes. Once this pie is finished, it's very important to let it rest for about 2 to 3 hours. Take a look at those beautiful layers in the apple pie. Remember the syrup we left for later? Now we can drizzle it all over for a spiced treat. I recommend serving this with vanilla bean ice cream and topping that with the additional crumble top. Happy 4th of July, everybody, and happy 250th birthday to the United States of America. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and follow me on TikTok and Instagram. Bye!